So this morning I was looking for something and I went through a couple of boxes. Unfortunately, I couldn't find what I was looking for, but I stumbled upon a whole bunch of magazines. I mean, I have hot rod magazines, cartoons, high times, heavy metal, just a bunch, and at least 30 Mad magazines from the 1970s. I think I started buying Mad magazines and the pocketbooks early 1970s sometime. I found about 25 of them today. I pulled a few out of my favorite issues. And they just hold a lot of memories for me. When I was a kid, I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And I lived in a few different neighborhoods. First, the West End on Valor Road. And we moved to Westwood in St. James in 1969. And during the 70s, early 70s at some point, a 7-Eleven opened on Portage Avenue, and I think it was Rouge Road. And I did a street view image, and there is a 7-Eleven there. However, it's in an entirely different building and slightly different location. But it was in that vicinity anyway. So I have fond memories of pedaling up there on my 10-speed bike. I typically grab a Slurpee and a hoagie sandwich and a Mad magazine, and I'd roll the magazine up and stuff it in my back pocket. And I'd pedal home, often hands-free, with a Slurpee in one hand and the hoagie in the other. And so those are my Mad magazine Winnipeg memories. And they always did a parody, a lot of satire, of course. And the price here was 40 cents cheap. And this issue was from July 71. And the parody here is the movie Joe, and I think that came out around 1970 or 71. It starred Peter Boyle and a young Susan Sarandon. And I'll just kind of flip through quickly. These things are so relevant today. Wipe out hate, toilet paper. So much went into these. And I think a lot of it flew under the radar for a certain generation, like my parents or those older. They just didn't get it, or they couldn't be bothered. I guess it struck them as being tad juvenile. But I loved it. And at that time, if I was a 12-year-old kid, I think a lot of this might have flown over my head too, because a lot of it is adult humor. Yeah, there's the young Susan Sarandon parody and the Peter Boyle character. Schmo. Don't mind the shaky cam here. I'll try to hold it as steady as I can. And just the artwork. I love this. So much went into this. The Mad Non-Smokers Hate Book. I could spend hours revisiting these magazines. I'll just skip through quickly because I got a few to show you. Very creative. Oh, this one's on Audio Gear. I like that. I don't remember this. I remember this. The FIB. Of course, Spy versus Spy. And I also collected the pocket books, and I've got at least 50 of those still packed away. I should have pulled those out. We'll get to the end, where they always had the Mad fold-in. Just got to switch hands. So we'll have a look at that. And of course, this was 1971, so the height of the Vietnam War. Let's see what that... So it's a grave with a rifle and the helmet on top. I'm not sure what that is supposed to... I'm trying to look at this through my lens. And the back cover. And wow, this is so relevant today. Look at that. Back in the day, I would never have ever thought people would be buying bottled water. You just didn't see it in the early 70s anywhere. Not until the 80s sometime, and even at that point, I thought it was strange to pay for a bottle of water. And in Canada, we've always had fresh water, tap water. It's safe to drink. for the most part. But now you see bottled water everywhere. We've all got a 24 case in our cupboard or our trunk for when we go camping or whatever. But not back then. So the next one is a parody of the movie Catch-22 that I really enjoyed. And that starred Alan Arkin. I think Alan Arkin, Art Garfunkel was even in there. Jonathan Winters, Buck Henry. That was a favorite movie of mine. Oh, this one is from March 71, 35 cents cheap. Catch-All 22. Oh yeah, there you go right here. So on the left, that would be a caricature of Alan Arkin, and then Buck Henry in the middle, and Ernest Borgnine. I think nowadays you'd get sued for doing this, because those artist renderings are clearly, you can't deny the likeness to the actual actors they're doing a parody of. I'll just go to the middle. Wow, so much stuff in here. Wow. And I think I just took this for granted when I was a kid. Yeah, it's Mad Magazine. And you know what, truth be told, as I mentioned, a lot of it was adult humor, and it would just sort of skip right over my head, my 12-year-old or 14-year-old brain. And I couldn't, sometimes I would just look at this and, oh, there's just way too much, and skip to the next page and get to something like this. Oh, my cat's exploring. What are you doing? Anyway. Let's get to the back of this one. How are you? How are you, 5-0? Bookham Dano. Wow. So this fold in, let's take a look at that. I think I recall this. I think it's a telephone or a toilet or something, but yeah. Yeah, it's a telephone. See, and it's probably been 50 years since 40 anyway, since I've seen that. And the back cover. Yeah, I didn't care for these. The scenes we'd like to see. I found them a little boring. They're funny. Okay, next. This one's from January 72, and it's 40 cents. But notice it doesn't have the underscore of the cheap. Every Mad magazine that I recall always said cheap. This one doesn't have that anywhere on the cover. Weird. Okay, let's begin. Scenes we'd like to see, a movie. I remember this. Peanuts at the age of 19, and then they do an older one when they're 70 or something. Yeah, Peanuts at the age of 65, 35. I love how they portray the hippies in here. And sometimes they'll even show paraphernalia like a pipe or a bong. Don Martin. I have the pocketbook. I think it's called Don Martin Drops 100 Stories or 20 Stories or something. I used to love that in Spy versus Spy. And I love how they portray the hippies here in the Square Dad. Wow. Yeah, this brings back so many memories. A mad look at waterbeds. We all had one or two of those. And let's look at, yeah, there. They talk about the paperback for Christmas. Yeah. So this one, what is that? Oh, I don't think it's being folded too often. It doesn't want to seem to go with one-handed very easily. What is that? Don't know. Keep in mind, I'm looking at this through the lens on my camera, so let's go to the next one. Oh yeah, here's an early one. This is probably one of the first Mad magazines that I ever bought. This one's June 70. I don't think I would have bought it at the location on Rouge and Portage. I would have got this before I moved there. 35 cents cheap. Of course, they're parodying Easy Rider, the movie. There's Alfred E. Newman on his little pedal. And I had a 3-speed CCM bike, and I had fork extensions that I'd made in shop. And I put them on. Wow. Modern Believe It or Nuts. That looks an awful lot like Ruth Buzzy from Laugh-In, which I believe that's supposed to be. Yeah, I'm really dating myself here. Yeah, definitely they wouldn't get away with this today. Sleazy Riders. Yeah, that's definitely Dennis Hopper and what's his name? Peter Fonda. Yeah, I'm going to read that later. U.S. Folksy Income Tax Return 1969. Life from the Broadside. More of these Mad Peak behind the scenes. Yeah, so much going on there. Wow. Definitely not for someone with ADHD. The lighter side of worry. I'll go to the back. Oh, Richard Nixon. He was in the news. Spiro Agnew, all those people were in the news at that time in the U.S. Mad Fold-In. What's this one going to be? Spiro Agnew. Holy cow. That's pretty cool. But you kind of already see the face. I like the fold-ins when you just can't detect what it's going to be. You can't tell until you fold it. In the back cover, I guess the two-faced Richard Nixon. I'm not sure what that mask is, if that's... I don't know who that is, if that's Lyndon Johnson or Spiro Agnew, or I never really followed American politics as I'm Canadian, but I did catch bits of it on the news. Sure, I know more about their politics and their geography than they do about ours. Next up, here we go. April 1973, and I did not scribble that out. That's Mad Magazine, 40 cents cheap, 39. I wonder if they actually charged 40 cents when you went to the till. I don't recall. Or did you get a penny back? Wow. Moving Jungle Tale. The New Comedians. The lighting here isn't very good. I hope this shows up. I'm just skipping. I'm grabbing a handful of pages and kind of flipping through. Let's get to the back here. Adam 12. I used to watch that show. And the fold-in. I think I remember this one too. Yeah, Old Rotgut, The Mighty Booze Business. Yeah, the art department must have had a blast designing all these things. Getting everything to fit and not be too obvious before you fold it in, that would be the trick. The back cover. Wow. And the last one I pulled out is from December 75. And apparently they lowered their price. Another Day in the Jungle. Yeah, there's the elephant hiding. Whenever I see these kind of hunter guys, I always think of that show, and I believe it was Canadian, The Hilarious House of Frightenstein. Billy Van, the comedian, he did most of the characters on there. I always think of that British kind of hunter, ooga booga, and then he'd get hit in the head with a golf ball. Not sure why that comes to mind, but another memory from my youth. Fun Lady. Now that would be a parody on The Funny Lady. I think that was the movie with Barbara Streisand. Never cared much. If I did ever see it, I probably walked out of the theater halfway. Not my cup of tea. I think that's Ryan O'Neal, if I'm not mistaken. Perhaps that's a chick flick. Maybe I'd like it today if I saw it. Don't know. Was never a big fan of Barbara. And there's a connection to Winnipeg there, because I do know she played, I can't remember exactly where. It was some nightclub. Not the Hollow Mug, but somewhere in Winnipeg she would have played back in the early 60s before she was really famous. She performed in Winnipeg. So there is a connection between Mad Magazine and Winnipeg. Despite what I said at the beginning of my post on Facebook. Oh, hang on. That's good. Frill-free. What's that say? I don't have. No frills sickness trough. That's kind of like a subway train. Too funny. But yeah, definitely the satire and whatnot, depending on how complex, or if it was more geared towards somebody 20 and over, of course, like I'd said earlier, my 12-year-old brain might not have caught on. So that's why these deserve a revisit. I think from the perspective of somebody in their 60s now looking back at this, they'd go, oh, now I get it. I have not looked at a Mad magazine since I was 16, 17 maybe. Wow. Dear Abby. See, I'm surprised they were even allowed to use that name unless it's spelt differently. And this is from 1975. Let's get to the back. The fold-in. So what do we got there? Oh yeah, I can already tell what it's going to be, and I don't remember. But I'm looking at that guy's shirt, and they look like eyeballs. Whoops. Yeah. But it's still really amazing. Really cool. So that's that. Fish or fowl. A scene we'd hate to see. Oh, look at that. SEA. Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching.